Hi everyone. Today's presentation focuses on the US sports market, with a particular emphasis on its major professional leagues. The objective is to analyze how these leagues could expand their business into Europe and ultimately to identify the most effective strategy explaining why it would work in the European context. To begin with, let's examine the main characteristics of the US sports market. I would like to start with a simple question. What are the big four professional US sports leagues? The first league to be founded is the Major League Baseball in 1903. It currently includes 30 teams, 29 based in the US and one in Canada. Its regular season is long 162 games per team. The second to be established is the National Hockey League, the NHL, in 1917. It consists of 32 teams, 25 in the US and 7 in Canada, where hockey is considered the national sport. During the season, each NHL franchise plays 82 games. The third league is the National Football League, the NFL, created in 1920. It also has 32 teams, all located in the United States, since Canada has its own professional league, the Canadian Football League. The NFL season is 18 weeks long, but each team plays only 17 games. And finally, we have the National Basketball Association in 1946. It currently includes 30 teams, but it's expected to expand to 32 in the near future, potentially adding franchises in Seattle and Las Vegas. At the present, the only Canadian team is the Toronto Raptors. Same as in the NHL, each NBA franchise during the season plays 82 regular season games. The global sports market has experienced a steady growth in recent years. At this point, a key question arises: which league is the most profitable? However, one league clearly stands out in terms of profitability. First of all, we have to define revenues and operating income. Revenues refer to the total amount of money a league or a team generates from its activities, such as ticket sales, broadcasting rights, or sponsorships. Operating income, on the other hand, is the profit remaining after subtracting operating costs like player salaries, logistics, and administration from revenues. So revenues are the total earnings, while operating income is earnings minus costs. The NFL is the league that generates by far the highest operating income and revenues. Interestingly, the NFL achieves this despite having the shortest season. The NFL structure, in fact, allows it to minimize costs while maintaining very high revenues. By contrast, MLB, even though it ranks second in total revenues, records the lowest operating income due to the high costs associated with its long season. A similar pattern can be observed at the franchise level. On average, each NFL team generates approximately $143 million in operating income per season, followed by the NBA and the NHL teams. Once again, MLB franchises rank lower due to their higher operational costs. Given these financial dynamics, it's not surprising that franchise valuations are extremely high. For instance, in March 2025, the NBA approved the sale of the Boston Celtics. At that time, the Celtics were the NBA reigning champions and were sold for a total amount of $6.1 billion. As things stand, the North American market is already highly saturated. Therefore, US leagues are increasingly looking toward Europe as a potential area for growth. So let's focus on the topic of market expansion. There are two main strategic options: organizing regular season games abroad or establishing a European league. The first approach is represented by the so-called global games, which are regular season matches played outside the US. Across all the major leagues, a total of 18 global games are held during this season: 7 in the NFL, 4 in the NHL and the MLB, and 3 in the NBA. However, the NBA is currently the only league actively planning to establish a long-term presence in Europe through the creation of a new competition. The NBA Europe project is expected to be launched in 2027-28 season. Nevertheless, this expansion strategy presents several significant challenges. First of all, there is a limited basketball tradition in certain target markets, particularly in the United Kingdom. For example, the London Lions, who compete in the EuroCup, the second European league, do not attract a large fan base. Second, the new franchises would lack of an established fan base, meaning that fan engagement would need to be built from the ground up. Third, there is the issue of the absence of major European clubs. Top teams such as Panathinaikos, Olympiacos, Olimpia Milano and Virtus Bologna, or also Fenerbahce, are not currently involved in the project. Even clubs like Barcelona or Real Madrid, although rumored to be interested, are not guaranteed to participate. At this point, I would like to involve you in the discussion. Imagine that you are the commissioner of a major sports league and your goal is to expand into the European market. First of all, you need to define the league structure. Would you establish a full developed European league, or would you prefer to schedule only a limited number of games in Europe during the regular season? Second, consider the role of major events. Would organizing a single high-profile event in Europe, such as the Super Bowl or the NBA All-Star Game, be more effective and profitable? Third, reflect on the market strategies. Which celebrities, influencers, or public figures would you involve to promote the league and attract new fans? Finally, think about the key challenges. What obstacles do you expect to encounter and how would you address them?